for approval of the revised diversity policy.
I move to approve the revised.
Policy, okay, second?
Transgender policy.
It's the
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh,
well, it's transgender
Oh, I read
policy.
the wrong thing, sorry. Transgender policy, yeah.
Yes.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, none opposed, okay. Update to our diversity policy.
So as a clarification, it actually is, it's not updated, would be a new policy.
Thank you.
And this is, I'm blanking on the name of a parent who brought this to me, who was not a parent at the school, but a parent who helped work with the founding of the school. And I met with her at the beginning, like 3 or 4 months. I'm blanking on the name, it'll come to me. But one thing she asked about was the statement on diversity and inclusion. And I said, what statement on diversity and inclusion? So the one that was worked on by a group of parents in prior to opening the school. And she said, well, I'll email it to you. And she emailed it to me, and then I ended up finding a different copy in my Google Drive that somebody else shared with me earlier. But then I looked at it, and like, there's some good things in here. You know, then we had our diversity committee was wanting to draft something. So I said, well, I found what was already drafted and passed it to them, and then looked at it and made some changes. And so you know, this is over a period of time has been through many hands, but it really hasn't been through the board's hands.
Yeah.
And one thing I like about it is, you know, that last page, or the can page, where it kind of gives some examples of what things that we can do, and also like that there are a lot of things that we are doing, but there are things that we need to remind ourselves, like translation of flyers that go out to the community. We don't always do that. And just to have something that we can hold. And I remember what this parent said. She's like, I want that no matter who's at this, what teachers, who's on the board, who's the director, that there's something that people can refer to keep everybody have a container for people when they want to look at how we treat each other in the community.
This is the only comment I had was this.
What exactly does this bullet point mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one?
No, there was a question that you put it in here. It said, what exactly does this bullet point mean? And then when it was that wasn't taken out when I sent it over to Colin.
So
Would you hand that to me
non-funded retention
so that I can
practices,
make
right?
the correction?
So I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
So the first, just the first list of areas, starts with ethnicity, religion, and omits race. Is there a reason that we omit race or can we insert that? It's the second to last line in that first italicized paragraph. We recognize diversity to include but not limited to race and ethnicity are not
Yeah.
synonymous, so.
That would give more.
Yeah, sure.
And in talking to the diversity community, you know, that just I think from a memory of why it may have been taken out is
Oh,
race is a social construct. It's not. There's no real such thing as race. But I mean,
Well-
there's a legal definition of race.
Yeah, and
But,
it's
yeah.
usually
There's a legal
included.
Yeah,
distinction.
yeah, but so I would say including it would be a good thing.
okay. I don't mean,
Yeah.
if it was deliberately considered,
Yeah,
then I don't,
but
I would wanna have dialogue further, but race and ethnicity in the protection laws
yes, are not the same.
are not the same.
Yeah, I think for that purpose it's worth having it.
Good. And would that ask then for us to define something else later in the policy, or just
No,
have
it No.
it's a
included?
throwaway
Okay.
word. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
Well,
given the fact that race is a construct, but it does have legal impact
Implications.
in court, so it's just like, we can't get into figuring all that out.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a good idea.
It's not-
just to
It can only help, it can't hurt.
Yes,
Mhm.
right.
And it also leads to conversation.
there's a handful of items that are italicized, all caps, that to a fresh reader, obviously what they stand
Okay,
for.
so acronym,
LAD, ELD, DLAC, so FRPL, well, we know what an
But
EL.
spell out the
Some of those we
acronyms.
know, but I just, there's a lot of those throughout the document, and just assume that somebody's not a staff member, many of those won't be obvious.
and that's really
And
important to make
something
sure it's
like GLAD
accessible.
actually has some, it has a few
Different, yeah, even in this world, so, yeah.
Yeah, so let's
So who's
define.
gonna do that?
Wait, can I just say something else too?
Yeah.
Before we finish? I mean, I'm glad we have on there learning differences, because a lot of times we talk about accepting everybody, but we don't ever talk about learning differences or kids with learning disabilities and different things. That is actually something that we accept and that we teach kids what that means and to understand that. And so, I think there actually needs to be, I'd like to see something specified where we talk about that some kids learn differently, some have a harder time learning to read, some kids, there's different types of learning disabilities that revolve around reading, there's some that revolve around writing. And that kids understand that, so that they don't inadvertently say to somebody, oh, why is your writing so bad, or why haven't you written anything down, or, that we understand. And, I think knowledge is understanding, and if we don't understand that there can be these different types of learning, like we go class to class, explain the gender, we don't go class to class, explain there's learning differences, and I think that is just as valid, and so I think, and especially as they leave here and they go onward, that really becomes an issue, and kids kind of get labeled for that, so if we could make sure that gets included, like, I'm really glad it's included here, but the whole
But not
approaches
down
to
below.
it and everything, it's never mentioned, ever, and anything we can do, teachers can, it's
Not
never
there.
mentioned. And,
Yeah.
and I find that a lot, and it becomes a real issue in middle school, and in high school, it becomes a big issue, where kids just get rid of their IEPs because
They don't want the stigma.
they don't want the stigma, and it's because they were never taught what it really is. And so I think if we can be more open about it and talk about it, and kids don't have a problem saying, oh, I have, dyslexia, I have dysgraphia, I learn differently, or I just, I think we need to give them the vocabulary in a safe place.
And I think
I
that
think it
does
makes
actually
sense.
happen in classes, but I think it needs to be
There.
institutional.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
too, from my
That's the
experience
purpose of
in the
this.
Yeah.
classroom,
Yeah,
is that it happens very naturally as
Right.
opposed to, there's sometimes where you wanna go and specifically sit down and
Right.
talk about a topic,
Right.
but that draws attention to it also, so there's pluses and minuses.
Right.
But my experience in the classroom is like that all, and you described it
More
earlier,
organic.
kind of, it like happens very
Yeah.
naturally that people,
but I think parents need to know that it's happening too, because parents get afraid to talk about it ever as well, and so
I think it's a great point to
yeah.
have it in
And
there
I
also.
just think this is the perfect place to,
Sounds to me like we're gonna have a second reading.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and just
I'll
overall,
I'll share, I'm gonna share it with you two,
Okay.
the Google Doc version of it.
okay.
And that way you can put in
Yeah.
suggestions and then I'll make sure it all gets
Okay.
finalized and edited.
So I get the first part of like the statement,
Yeah.
and I get the last page of like what we can do,
Yeah.
the community and what the teachers can do. And then this, maybe this is just an offline revision, but this section, this middle section, it's kind of reads to me, there's a lot of good ideas in there, but it's kind of unclear what it is, like ideas of what we're supposed to do, or, I don't get
For there to
the
be some
section.
kind of,
It's just like a laundry list of
yeah,
good stuff, but it's like, we will try and, is this what we're gonna be trying to do, or here are some tools in our toolbox, or, I don't,
I think that it was a laundry list of things that they didn't wanna forget when they were formulating this.
oh, okay,
I
well, that's
really
what it
do
looks
think it was
like.
like their working notes, kind of.
but yeah, but
Okay.
at the
So
same
it-
time,
so
it's
here it
like,
should-
like best practices to,
well, it's just if we expect certain things to happen, I mean, then as a teacher, you need to know what that is, right? So that you can do it, but if you don't have it, then,
I read it as
So-
like suggested practices,
okay.
Okay.
but
So
it'd be good to have some
If
kind
it's
of a
like a school
narrative.
policy, then I feel like it should read well in a certain way, which I feel like that first part
Yes.
does, and largely the last page also. And then this other stuff, to me, is like, I'm not gonna vote to adopt a policy that's not real clear, like, there are a lot of good ideas,
Yeah.
but it's, I don't understand what it is.
What
So
are we actually doing with
either
it?
we take it out, which probably isn't the right answer, we keep it in, and we sort of say like, ideas of how we're gonna
Yes.
accomplish the statement above. this will be an evolving list, but, you know, is here just for ideas, reference, illustrative purposes, whatever. So we don't lose those ideas, but also,
It's not an official part of the policy.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Cheryl, and thank you, Sonia. This is why we do this.
All right, so, it looks like we're probably not gonna take any action on this item. Is there any public comment on this item? No. Okay.
I'm going home.
That's my comment.
We will bring this back to our next meeting then,
Yeah.
hopefully, or
Thank you.
one of our
Yes.
next meetings,
Yes,
yes.
Thank you.
And thanks to
Okay.
diversity, you finding you'll file the diversity committee for doing it, I think that's great that we have it, so my comments and work is,
Great,
I want it, you know, I care about it.
yeah.
That's how we operate as a school, we're always constructive criticism.
And I think that the diversity committee needs to be brought back in at some point as
Yeah.
well, so that they didn't just give us something that we're gonna completely change and vote on it.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
Okay, consent agenda items. Is there any, I don't think we have a personnel update, do we? So is there any comment on the minutes or do a motion for approval?
Could I ask about personnel, so Elizabeth is on like a formal medical leave, or would
Gotta
not?
be careful what we talk about
Yeah.
and,
Oh, okay,
But, yeah, but you can talk to Luke directly.
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, do I hear a motion for the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes of the February 11th meeting.
Can I second that?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, I actually would like to report to the board what we're doing,
Yes.
because it doesn't in any policy anywhere. But, she is on medical leave, but we are, paying her, the employer's percentage, employer amount of her insurance, and she's paying the employee amount. So, that's not in any policy we have, but it seemed like the right thing to do, Luke and I talked about it, so that's what we're doing. So you need to approve it, and, you know, that's in the budget.
It's not FEMLA.
You know, I don't know if it's required, I didn't go look it up.
Yeah, yeah, no, okay, no, that would, cause that's a,
Yeah, right, but I don't think, you know, to do medical leave, it's a real process. Having been an employer, I've done it enough. And it's a federal regulated process, so there's a lot to it. And that's not what we're doing, we're just, you know, we're holding her position open, and we're paying her health insurance until she comes back.
Okay,
And then in the meantime, there is, somebody who is volunteering her time, 2 days a week in kind of the role of Elizabeth. Besides, Jen putting in more hours, nothing can.
And parents.
And parent, and some, you know, parent volunteers. So nothing can take the place of.
Yeah, and I'm concerned about, you know, she doesn't just sit there and hand out Band-Aids, which is what most of these other parents are doing. They're answering the phones, they're, you know, dealing with day-to-day, face-to-face stuff, but Elizabeth was always trying to like escape to some quiet place, which is hard to find around here, to get reports done and do all of this like really important state reporting and attendance stuff, and are you doing that? Cause I feel like how on earth could you do that?
My general process is if it's something that's simple, just hand off.
Mhm,
If it's something that's complicated and I wanna know how to do it,
mhm.
I learn how to do it. And then I decide whether I train somebody else on it and have them do it, or whether I keep it. There are some things that I'm keeping, like the reporting is really important.
Oh,
And it's also been educational for me just to see the process of how these things work. I've had like a surface level understanding of how some of these things work, but it's been really helpful for me
yeah.
in, you know, supporting our office manager when she returns,
Mhm, yeah.
of just knowing how to do some of these things and working with ed tech and then other things I'm passing on, so.
Mhm.
I think another good thing that's gonna come out of this is that when she comes back, other people are going to,
Mhm.
uh,
Be able to do
be able
some
to
of
do
that
stuff. that they otherwise did not know how to do, that she just took on. So it's kind of, so it's like increased my workload, but
It's coming
That's
down
enough,
a little bit.
there was one thing that's passed off today to Kim, who's now working with Colin on invoices.
Oh, good. The other thing is, you know, this is a big time of year because we've got all these people now registering. There's a lot of support with that, you know, we need to, people come in and then just processing all that, looking at documents and all that, and I'm assuming Kim's gonna be working on that?
Kim's gonna be working on that, and then.
Cause she has experience with that.
Yeah,
in general.
and then, you know, we're all getting trained tomorrow on how to do the online registration system from the other end of receiving things. I was trained on up to a certain point, and now everybody's being trained, so it doesn't have to be me who's
Good.
training.
Well, and I just wanna say, you know, in most schools, maybe slightly larger than us, but in most schools, there's a curriculum person and then there's sort of the other, whatever business side of things. And Luke does it all. It's a lot, and then having the office manager be gone too, I mean, it's just a tremendous amount of work that's falling on you right now, I just wanna acknowledge that.
But there's also, Con is doing a lot,
Thank
and
goodness.
Sharon helps out more than anybody could ever know, so it's not just me.
But also, think of all the time you spend walking parents around on tours, it's hours of every week, I mean, and that's the time you are not able to do the other stuff, and you still have kids who need it's just a lot, you're doing a lot right now, I just wanna acknowledge that.
I'm going away for spring break.
Yay!
Fort Lauderdale?
Encinitas.
All right, well, thank you. Okay. Future meeting needs and topics, we've discussed a couple of items, so we will make sure those go on, and then we'll have other things that we need to put on again. Anybody have anything to add at this point, or you can forward it on? Keep us going? Okay. A quick evaluation of meeting, it went too long, no.
There's a lot of stuff on
May
it.
it be briefer next meeting.
Yes, okay.
But I will say, I just love how we have answers for every question, and they're
Yeah.
good answers.
No.
You know, like, there's nothing shady going on as much as some people like to think there is. You know, we've got,
Yeah.
we're running a good tight ship here, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you,
Great.
you guys.
I'm really astounded that Sherry Hamilton
So,
Shelley.